Hey guys, it's Nick from Nick Tips here. I hope all of you are doing well in this current situation where it's actually kind of dangerous to go outside. I hope all of you are safe physically and mentally. So actually I had a script prepared, but I'm thinking like screw it. I'm just going to ad-lib it. I'm going to talk to you about a question that a lot of friends ask me lately. They ask me, hey Nick, what do we consider when we're trying to build our own PC or when we're trying to buy a laptop? Now, this is a very broad topic, a very broad question for me to answer. So I figured, why not just make a video out of it, right? So today I'm going to talk about a few of the things, mainly regarding CPU, graphics cards, motherboards, RAM, power supply. However, I'm not going to go into detail about specific types of CPUs, specific types of graphics cards, because it's a very large history in PC parts. So in the future, I'm going to do review videos on my own hardware, since I'm not able to get hardware from manufacturers. I don't have enough subscribers. So without further ado, let us begin. For CPU, when we talk about building a PC, right? In the beginning, you will need to know what are you trying to do with your PC. Are you trying to game on it? Are you trying to do heavy work on it? Or are you just trying to load up your PC and surf the internet? These factors would influence your decision on buying or rather on choosing your parts for your PC. In this case, I'm going to talk about both. I'm going to talk about gaming in general, and also going to talk about a little bit about workstations, and I'm also going to talk about the requirements of just a normal PC. So when it comes to gaming, in recent years, we actually kind of need multiple cores in our CPU. And for those who don't know, right, CPUs, they are two manufacturers. One is from AMD and the other one is from Intel. Now, in recent years, both of these manufacturers are very good options. I personally am biased towards, not biased, but I generally prefer AMD over Intel, just because of its socket compatibility. But I'm going to talk about that later in another video. But what you need to know right now is that for gaming and for working, right, you kind of need CPUs with a lot of cores, multiple cores. I'm not going to say a lot. It actually varies depending on what kind of work are you doing. For me, I just game on it and I just maybe edit some videos and everything. So for me, my personal choice would be the Ryzen 5 3600 from AMD. It has 6 cores, 12 threads, with respectable clock speeds. And for those people who are trying to build maybe just a simple desktop for you to use to open your emails, type documents and such, I would suggest getting a budget CPU that could just run Windows 10, and that's about it. Generally, the rule of thumb is that the more cores you have, although don't quote me on this, right? The more cores you have, and with respectable clock speeds, right? Generally, those CPUs are used to game or used to perform heavy workloads. However, there are exceptions. There are like server CPUs and whatnot. So as I said before, general rule of thumb, a respectable core count, multiple cores, at least get a 4-core CPU. That's my minimum requirement when it comes to gaming or doing some work. Now, moving on to graphics cards. A very hard topic for me to talk about. The reason which is that graphics cards nowadays, due to the global chip shortage and the limited amount of supply that manufacturers give, graphics cards are very hard to come by. Even if you can find a graphics card, right, it's going to be very, very expensive due to scalping prices and whatnot, and also the recent crypto mining boom, right? So for graphics cards, what I suggest for people who want to game right now, I won't even suggest second-hand graphics cards. Just try to get, if you're able, a first-hand GTX 1650, 1660, roughly around those range, and you're good to go basically. We'll also be doing a more in-depth video regarding graphics cards in the future, so please do subscribe if you want to see more of this content. Now, as for me personally, I'm using the RTX 2060. I got that last year, and I'm quite lucky because last year in my place it cost me around 1,300 ringgit in my country currency, but recently I've been checking the graphics card prices and it has increased to around 2.6 to 2.8k per new graphics cards from resellers. So I would say that it's a bad time for you to get a graphics card right now, but if you want it, right, I would suggest getting either a laptop for now, a pre-built system, or even APUs where the CPU that has a graphics card inside of it. And those APUs, they generally come from AMD. I would suggest getting at least the Ryzen 5 3400G, since the 5000 series is going to be expensive as well due to global chip shortages. If you're just doing normal office work, right, you generally don't even need a graphics card. Graphics cards are mainly used for gaming, for performing graphically intense work like graphical editing, graphical processing, or some cases data science where they use the cores inside the graphics card to perform analysis on data. However, for just outputting your computer to a monitor screen, not even using a graphics card would just be enough for just normal office work. So it basically depends on what you're trying to do, right? If you're getting a PC for gaming, right, you would need a graphics card, no doubt. A graphics card is needed just to game, right? But if you're just using your PC for normal work, normal office work, then I would suggest just getting a motherboard, a CPU, power supply, and that's it. You're good to go, basically. So, moving on, I'm going to talk about RAM. RAM is actually also very hard for me to talk about because for those people who are not technologically informed, RAM looks the same. In the more specific term, right, RAM is actually needed, or rather they have compatibility like DDR4, DDR3, they also sodium RAM, and this is all very complicated, but I will just talk about the volume for now. And now for me, right, personally I would suggest getting 8 gigs of RAM in your PC. The reason being, there's Windows 10, and there's Google Chrome, everything you would need to run, even for normal work. It will require you to have enough RAM basically for you to run your apps and software smoothly. So what would you need to do is to get 8 gigs of RAM and also get 2 sticks instead of 1 stick of RAM in your motherboard. The reason being, this is dual channel memory. You have to run RAM in dual channel memory mode, as it allows your memory bandwidth to not be limited by only 1 stick of RAM. You can get 2 4GB sticks of RAM, or you can get 2 8GB sticks of RAM for your system. It applies the same logic to laptops as well. So if you have a laptop right now and there's only 1 stick of RAM, you might want to consider getting another stick of RAM for your laptop. Alright, so now we have covered CPU, graphics cards, and RAM. Now we're going to talk about power supply. A very interesting topic. Never skimp on your power supply. Power supplies are very important for your PC. It's basically the heart of your entire system, and you would want a good heart for your system. Although it actually depends on what work you're trying to do with your PC. Maybe if you want to game, then you would want a power supply that has a good efficiency rating as well as a high wattage of power supply. However, it also depends on what kind of power supply you're going for. There are many types. There are small form factors, there are just normal power supplies, there are modular power supplies, semi-modular power supplies. So as a general rule of thumb, I would suggest you trying to find a power supply that suits your needs, right? And also get a power supply from a reputable brand like Corsair, EVGA, Cooler Master, Silverstone for my friends in the US, right? So there are things that you will need to consider when you're trying to get a power supply. If you're just using your PC for maybe normal office work, and generally speaking your PC isn't under a heavy load, then just get a power supply that is reliable. You don't have to have high wattage or even a high efficiency rating, and basically you're good to go. You can just plug it in your system and then run it, and it should be fine. So, power supplies. Never skimp on power supplies. I know I've said this twice, right? But it's a very important thing for you to remember, for you to know. Never skimp on your power supply 3 times. So now we've covered CPU, graphics cards, RAM, power supply. I'm going to talk a little bit about the thought process of buying a PC, right? So, first step, you will need to know what are the things you're going to use on your PC. Are you trying to game? Are you trying to do data analytics? Or are you just trying to open up and see your grandkids' photos? Right? So always know what you're trying to do with your PC and budget around that. If you're trying to game, then of course your budget will need to be higher just to get more powerful hardware, stronger graphics cards, stronger CPUs. But if you're just using it for internet browsing, right, then you can just budget your PC around that and spend the money on something else, right? Second thing you will need to know is just to do a lot of research. I cannot stress this enough. Do research based on user reviews and not paid reviews. You generally can spot paid reviews just by going on sites. They would sing the product's praises and just ignoring the bad things about the product. So generally what I do when I go and try to find user reviews, right, is just to go on Reddit just to see what are the people's thoughts on this particular CPU or this particular graphics card or even the power supply, right? Because people learn best from experience, so they can actually share their experience and then you get to learn from their experience so you don't get to make the same mistake again. So these 2 things are generally the most important thing when you're trying to buy a PC, you're trying to buy a laptop. You can even use it on other products as well. You can use this when you're trying to buy a car, you can use this when you're trying to buy a house, So always know what you're trying to do with your PC. Build your budget based on that. And then in the next step, always do research. There's a lot of things to learn, definitely, when you're starting out building a PC. But as you slowly build and you slowly do research, you understand more and more about the technology that we have, the technology that you can use, and the technology that is compatible with one another. So always do research. So as a conclusion, if you're trying to game, right, then go for a CPU with multiple cores. If you're trying to just, do light work, right, then just get a reliable CPU. Try not to get sidetracked by amazing features that you probably don't need. Like what the salesman would always say, oh, this product has this product has that, but it's going to cost you a buttload of money, and you're basically buying it where you can use that money to spend it on somewhere else, right? So always do your research. Last but not least, I thank all of you for watching this video. If you stick to the end, right, I really sincerely thank all of you. It's my first time, I would say, showing my face on camera, showing my face on YouTube. And I know I'm not particularly interesting, right? I try to be, and I appreciate the support that all of you watching right now could give me. So if you want more videos like this in the future, remember to like and subscribe. It would help me a lot. So sharing this video with you guys has been my pleasure. And as always, I hope I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.